I thought it would be nice to finally celebrate New Year's Eve with my friends after being mostly alone during the pandemic. I arrived at Mike's house, an old Victorian with creaky floors and dusty furniture in the attic. It felt familiar but also strangely forgotten. As I walked in, the energy felt off. Maybe it was just me. The decorations looked festive, but something in the air made me uneasy. I remember smiling and hoping to push past everything from the last year, but I felt a chill that I thought was just drafts from the old windows. The night went on smoothly, at least for a while. Then this man walked in. I don't know how to describe him. None of us knew him, and yet he spoke like he fit right in. The conversation changed then. People started glancing at one another. The way he talked about us felt wrong. I felt my heart race as I listened to him. The lights flickered a couple of times. It made me feel anxious. I looked around the room. The others seemed nervous too. I thought I heard quiet laughter coming from the attic. It sent a shiver down my spine. I tried to join in on the laughter, but it felt forced. I didn't want to look stupid. Someone whispered about something that had happened years ago. Everyone went silent. Their faces turned pale. Couldn't get it. Maybe it was just an inside joke. But I felt cold, as if a shadow passed through the room. I shrugged it all off, but deep down, I was unsettled. As the clock ticked louder, I kept glancing at the new guy. He was chatting with Mike like they had shared secrets for years. My instincts told me to leave. I didn't want to be rude. Maybe things were fine. Maybe I was overthinking it. Then, just before midnight, the lights went out completely. Panic set in. I could hear soft whispers. I thought I heard that eerie laughter again, but it felt closer this time. I clutched my drink, my breathing quickening. When the lights finally came back on, the man was gone. I looked around, but no one seemed to notice except me. I felt a growing dread as the countdown began. The atmosphere felt thick and heavy. I wanted to scream, to tell everyone what I had seen, but fear kept my mouth shut. The clock struck midnight, and everyone cheered, but I felt hollow inside. I didn't stick around to find out what happened after that. Driving home, my hands shook on the wheel. I felt drenched in confusion. I kept replaying everything in my mind. Who was that man? What did we truly experience? The lines between memory and reality blurred that night in a way I couldn't explain. I pulled into my driveway, heart racing, my mind filled with questions I was too afraid to answer. The next day, I woke up in a fog. I reached for my phone, hoping for some clarity. Scrolling through social media, I saw posts about the New Year's Eve party. Photos filled my screen. Smiling faces, party hats, and glasses raised in toasts. I felt a knot in my stomach. The man was missing from all of them. I tried to recall his face, but it was already fading. Who was he? How could everyone act like nothing had happened? I needed to talk to Mike. Maybe he had seen the man too. I texted him, but it took forever for a response. I watched the little dots bubble with no reply. Anxiety tightened my chest. Finally, I got a message. Sorry, just recovering. Let us catch up later? I frowned. There was no mention of the mysterious man. Determined to uncover what was bothering me, I grabbed my jacket and headed over to Mike's house. The Victorian loomed as I approached, shadows clutching around its edges. My heartbeat quickened again. As I walked up the creaky steps, I expected the door to swing open. Instead, I found it ajar. "Mike," I called out, hesitating before pushing the door. Creaked in protest, and I stepped inside. The familiar smell of old wood lingered, but this time it hung thick with an unsettling silence. I wandered through the living room, its clutter now more alarming than cozy. Everything felt off. Stuffed animals and forgotten Christmas decor gathered dust in the corners. I lingered, anxiety creeping through me. I decided to check the attic. The feeling of eyes watching me sent shivers down my spine as I climbed the steps. The attic door was slightly open. As I pushed it, it creaked ominously, revealing the dimly lit space. Shadows danced along the walls, making my heart race. I stepped in. Dust motes floated lazily in the faint light, and cobwebs greeted me like old friends. Then I noticed something on the floor, a small, tarnished mirror. I picked it up, and as I did, A chill raced through me. My reflection looked distorted, almost like the features were subtly shifting. I gasped and dropped it, feeling a chill crawl down my spine. That S when I heard a noise. Quiet, but unmistakable laughter. It echoed through the attic, a haunting sound that sent terror rippling through me. I stumbled back, my breath hitching. "Hello?" I said, the tremor in my voice betraying my fear. No response. Just the laughter, now layered with whispers. They seemed to weave together, forming words I couldn't quite grasp. Suddenly, I felt something cold brush against my arm, as if someone or something was right next to me. I bolted out of the attic, heart pounding. My instincts screamed to run, to get out. When I reached the front door, I glanced back, heart racing. That laughter lingered in my ears. I fumbled with the doorknob, and just as I was about to escape, I caught a glimpse of the mirror on the floor. I picked it up, curious despite my fear. In its reflection, I saw the man from the party behind me, smile wide and eyes dark as the night itself. My breath caught in my throat. I burst out of the house, desperation driving me to my car. As I slammed the door shut and sped away, my mind raced with questions. Who was he? How could he be here now? I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting him to be there. But the road behind me was empty. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. I was already in too deep. The moment I got home, the weight of confusion settled on me like a heavy blanket. I couldn't shake the image of that man out of my mind. Who was he? What did he want? I needed to talk to Mike again, but all I could think was how strange his response had been. I made a cup of tea, hoping it would soothe my racing thoughts. I sat at my kitchen table, staring blankly at the steam curling up from the mug. My phone pinged with a notification, and I snatched it up. It was a message from Mike. "Let us meet at the diner. I need to tell you something important." Unease bubbled within me. What could be so important? I grabbed my coat and keys. The diner was only a few blocks away, but I felt like I was walking through a fog that clung tightly and made each step heavy. Once I arrived, I scanned the room. The bright lights and familiar clatter of dishes felt oddly comforting yet uncomfortable at the same time. I spotted Mike in a corner booth, looking pale and worn. His eyes darted around as I approached, giving me the impression of a man on high alert. "Hey," I said, sliding into the seat across from him. "You okay?" "Not really," he admitted, rubbing his eyes with weary hands. "I've been hearing things, strange things since the party." "What do you mean?" I asked, my throat tightening. He leaned closer as if confiding in me. "I've been hearing laughter at night, but it's not just laughter. It's different. It sounds wrong." A chill ran down my spine. "You heard it too?" He nodded, looking down at his hands. I thought I was imagining it at first, but then I saw something in my reflection. "What? Like a shadow?" I pressed, my pulse quickening. "No, not a shadow. It was the man, just like you described. He was in my mirror. I could barely breathe. But how? Why is he showing up?" "I don't know," Mike said, his voice shaky, "but I've been trying to piece it together. A few days before the party, I heard some people talking about a legend related to this town, a dark figure that appears when something bad is about to happen." Legend? My mind raced, no longer wanting to focus on the whispers echoing in my head. What kind of legend? Something like, if you see him in a mirror, it means he's making a connection. It's not a good sign. Before he could finish, we both turned toward the diner entrance. The door swung open, and a gust of cold air rushed in. My heart dropped. A woman stood just inside, her silhouette dark against the bright lights. She looked oddly familiar, a friend from high school I hadn't seen in years. But then I caught sight of it. Over her shoulder, I saw him, the man from the party, lurking just outside the door, eyes glinting in the fluorescent light. I blinked, and he was gone. "Did you see that?" I gasped, my voice trembling. "See what?" Mike's face was pale. "The man. He was just outside." Mike's eyes widened. "We need to leave. Now." As we stood up, the laughter filled the diner, echoing around us. I felt a profound sense of dread wrap around my throat. I didn't want to know what came next, but deep down, I knew I wouldn't escape it. Then everything went dark. When I regained my senses, I found myself on the floor of the diner, cold tiles against my skin. Panic surged. I shot up, frantically looking for Mike. The stage of confusion shifted to a sharp sense of urgency. The laughter still echoed, but it now had turned into a strange melody, distant yet hauntingly close. I scanned the diner, but it was empty. The booths, once filled with people, were deserted. The flickering neon signs cast eerie shadows across the room, warping the familiar into something unknown. "Mike!" I called out, my voice trembling. There was no answer. I stumbled to the diner door. The cold air hit me hard, making me shiver. Outside, the streets were as empty as the diner, drenched in an unsettling silence. I peered off into the darkness, heart racing. What happened? I cast my eyes around, hoping to catch a glimpse of Mike, but there was nothing but silence. No signs of life. I had to find him. I knew he wouldn't just vanish. A thought struck me hard. I remembered what Mike had said about the legend. Suddenly, a shiver ran down my spine. I turned back towards the diner. The glass door reflected the world behind me, but I didn't want to look. I took a deep breath. No choice. I had to check. As I faced the mirror-like glass, my heart dropped. There, in the reflection, was a flicker of darkness. The man stood right behind me, his face just inches from my own, a wide grin stretching across features that felt more like a nightmare than reality. My breath caught in my throat. I spun around, but he was gone. Terror gripped me. The legends were real. The very thought of being a pawn in this dark game sent my mind spiraling. I stepped back, hitting the wall with a thud, fighting to steady my breathing. "Get a hold of yourself," I whispered to myself. I needed to think. I scanned the darkened diner again, focused on ways to find Mike. He couldn't be far. His presence was the only tether I had to sanity. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I spotted something moving in the alley next to the diner. A shadow darted away. "Mike!" I shouted, running toward it, recklessly determined. The alleyway was narrow, and the darkness seemed to thicken as I stepped inside. The laughter echoed again, but this time it was mixed with my name, as if it had formed into a distorted chant. I stumbled onward, pushing back my fear. Then, under a flickering streetlight, I saw him. Mike. His back was to me, facing an old wooden door partially ajar, hidden by thick shadows. "Mike, don't!" I yelled, reaching out. But it was too late. He turned, a blank expression on his face. And behind him, the man. His smile stretched wider, eyes glinting with malice as Mike stood motionless. That's when I understood I wasn't just searching for Mike. I was also in a race against time. The truth about the man and the legend was waiting to be uncovered, and I could feel the stakes rising, pulling me deeper into this chaos. I took a step back, feeling my own heartbeat quicken. "We have to leave," I shouted, hoping to shake Mike from his trance before it was too late. But he didn't move. Instead, the laughter swelled, wrapping around us like a noose, tightening and squeezing. The air felt thick, and I realized we were both trapped, caught in whatever dark fate this figure had planned. Then I saw something shifting in the darkness, something worse than I could ever imagined. My heart dropped again, because that's when I knew I wasn't alone anymore. I was frozen, my eyes pinned on the shadows shifting near the entrance of the alley. It felt like a bad dream, one that twisted tighter with every second. Mike stood still, his gaze lost. The man behind him, the stranger with the grin, remained a lustrous silhouette, pulsating with dark energy. "Mike!" I shouted again, desperation bleeding through my voice. He didn't react. The laughter echoed again, slipping into a frantic rhythm that vibrated in my chest. It was an insistent reminder that time was slipping away, and we were running out of options. Then I saw it, a glimmer of silver at Mike's feet. Panic surged a second time, propelling me forward. When I reached Mike, I bent down, trying to grab the knife. No, a small shard of glass half buried in the dirt. I wanted to wave it in the air, anything that could push the darkness back. But as I clasped the shard, a horrifying realization took hold. A pair of eyes watched me. The man was closer now, just beyond Mike's shoulder. "Let him be," he said. His voice smooth yet forceful, slicing through the tension like the glass in my hand. "Who are you?" I demanded, trying to sound braver than I felt. The man laughed, a low, raspy sound that crawled under my skin. I couldn't take my eyes off him. There was something uncanny about him, something that felt ancient and wrong. "Just a friend," he replied, his wide grin never waning. "Seeking some entertainment on a special night." This man was not here for fun. I could sense it in the way Mike remained trapped under his spell, unable to break free from whatever dark magic was at play. Suddenly, the sharp glass broke my thoughts. I held it firmly in my hand, taking a deep breath. "I'm not leaving here without him." The man snickered. "And what do you think you can do with that little piece of glass?" He wasn't worried. The confidence he radiated was infuriating. "What if I don't play his game?" I countered, defiance rolling through me. The moment lingered as I felt the ground shake slightly, a vibration in the air that told me I was crossing a line. But I had no choice. "Very well," the man said, tilting his head. "Then let the games begin." The laughter shifted again, resonating from the shadows. It felt like it came from everywhere and nowhere, wrapping around us tighter. I could see the alley growing darker, the shadows spilling longer, and something stirring behind me. As a figure stepped forward from the depths of the alley, my breath caught. It wasn't just another shadow, it was a person, with familiar features twisted in a horrifying mask of fear. It was Sarah, my childhood friend, her eyes wide and pleading. "Maya, help me," she shouted, reaching out. But as she did, the man's arm shot forward, restraining her with an iron grip. That's when I realized the game was much larger than I thought. It wasn't just about Mike. My heart sank as I understood I had stumbled into the darkness where every familiar face could become a pawn. I was losing time. The stakes were dangerously high, and I had no idea how to win this game. But I needed to fight. I had to break whatever hold this man had over Mike, Sarah, and everyone else before it was too late. I took a shaky step back, the shard of glass cold and uncomfortable in my grip. The commotion around me felt like a nightmare growing more chaotic by the second. Sarah's pleading eyes locked onto mine, and every instinct screamed at me to save her. But I had to focus on breaking the hold the man had over Mike first. "Let her go," I shouted, my voice some blend of anger and fear. The man with the grin only chuckled, the sound dripping with confidence. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was enjoying every moment of this twisted game. "Ah, you're brave, Maya," he replied, his eyes narrowing slightly. "But bravery isn't enough. You'll need to play by my rules." My mind raced as I tried to think of a strategy. The alley loomed larger and darker, the shadows creeping closer. What were his rules? I needed information. "What do you want from us?" The man tilted his head, mocking consideration. "Isn't it obvious? I'm here for the thrill, your fears, your desperation. They amuse me." The laughter swelled again, but it was tinged with anger. I could feel it rising up, a tide threatening to drown me in its darkness. But then, I remembered the shard, its glassy edge catching faint light. If I could redirect this game, maybe it would give me an advantage. "Tell me what you need to do," I said, forcing calm into my voice, "and I'll play your game." But instead of answering, he stepped closer, wrapping a finger around Sarah's chin. "You see, my dear, there is no winning in this game. There's only pain and darkness. Surrender, and I might let her go." In that moment, my heart tightened. I didn't like the way he touched her, like an insect ready to crush its prey. "What makes you think I would ever agree to that?" I shot back, sensing the pulse of my defiance. His smile widened. "And what makes you think you have a choice? Time is limited, my dear." Tick-tock, tick-tock. Then, without warning, the shadows surged forward, walls pressing tightly around us. A loud crash echoed from the street beyond. A flash of light cut through the darkness, illuminating the scene for a fleeting moment. I caught sight of Mike's face. It was painted with horror, the spell appearing to weaken. In that instant, I saw something else lurking behind him. It was another figure, this one with eyes that glowed an unnatural hue. My stomach dropped as I realized it wasn't just Sarah at risk if I didn't act. Mike might not escape whatever sinister force this man commanded. Just as I was about to make a move, the laughter transformed into something more menacing. "Are you ready to join the fun?" the man taunted, his voice now woven with a dark undertone. And I knew I didn't have much time left. Everything depended on my next choice. I drew in a breath and tightened my grip on the glass shard, still unsure of what awaited me in this chilling game. All I knew was that if I wanted to save Mike and Sarah, I had to confront the unknown lurking in the shadows head-on. The moment stretched into a sharp, tense silence. My mind raced, but my body felt rooted to the spot, as if the shadows were pulling me down. I had to act. I took one more hesitant step forward, my grip on the glass tightening. "What do you want?" I repeated, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just let her go." The man's eyes glittered with delight, and he leaned closer to Sarah, making her shiver. "You could say I'm a collector of fears, Maya. I thrive on the moments people are pushed to their limits. Just like now." His words set off sparks inside me. I had to give him something else, a reaction he wasn't calculating. "What if I told you I was even more afraid of what you're capable of?" I forced myself to say, my heart pounding against my ribs. He paused, tilting his head like a curious animal. "Now that's interesting." A flicker of something like intrigue crossed his expression. It was the slightest crack in his facade, but I saw it, a crack I had to exploit. From behind him, the glowing eyes flared, casting an eerie glow in the dim alley. Mike stood frozen, horror written across his features. I realized he was no longer under the man's control. Something was changing. I could sense it, a shift in the air like a storm brewing. "Look away," I shouted to Mike. "Just don't look." I knew I had to buy us time. The glass shard was still in my hand, its edge sharp and glinting, and I clenched it tighter. "You enjoy fear and chaos, right?" I said, my voice rising in challenge. "How would you like to see what real fear looks like? What if I just destroy this?" I gestured wildly at the shadows enveloping us. He laughed again, but this time it felt less triumphant, more uncertain. "You think that will scare me? You're playing a dangerous game, Maya." "Maybe I am," I replied, asserting my courage. "But you don't know what I've lost. You don't know what I'm capable of." I lifted the shard closer and, with a swift movement, pretended to bring it down against my own arm. Just a slight cut to draw blood. It was worth the risk. The shock value might be enough to distract him. But instead of fear, he leaned back, his eyes narrowing dangerously. Now that's interesting. You're willing to hurt yourself for her, are you?" In a flash, I could see the gears turning in his mind. Suddenly, he released Sarah, who stumbled back, confusion flashing across her face. This was my moment. "Mike," I shouted, looking past the man. "Grab her. We need to get out of here." As they moved, the man raised a hand, and I felt a wave of energy pulse through the air like a whip, sending a chill down my spine. "You think it's that easy? I won't let you leave." And then everything went dark. The shadows blurred, and within seconds, I was surrounded by thick blackness that swallowed all sound and light. Panic surged through me as I realized I was alone, cut off from everyone, locked in an unfamiliar dimension where I couldn't tell up from down. But just as despair began to weigh me down, I felt a vibration at my feet, a tremor of energy, a pulse. Someone was close. When I saw it, an outline starting to form in the darkness, another figure emerging. Suddenly, I wasn't as alone as I thought. But who was it? And what did they want? My heart raced again, but this time it was laced with hope. I had to find out what this new presence meant, and how it might change my fate. I squinted into the darkness, trying to discern the figure that was forming before me. It was like trying to see through fog, but there was a softness to the outline. Whoever it was, I couldn't shake the feeling they weren't a threat. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaking slightly. "Who are you?" The figure stepped closer, and a low, soothing voice broke through the void. "I'm here to help you, Maya." Relief washed over me, but I felt a twinge of doubt. Help? How? I'm trapped not for long, the figure said, their outline sharpening into a familiar shape. It was a girl, one I knew from school, Lena. But in the dimness, she seemed somehow more ethereal, her features flickering like a candle caught in a draft. I've been looking for you. You need to focus. On what? I felt a rush of questions build up inside me. What just happened? Where's Mike and Sarah? Lena waved her hand, and the shadows around us pulsed. They're safe, but it won't last long. The man you were dealing with, he's more powerful than you think. We have to get away from him. He thrives in the dark. I shivered at the thought of him lurking nearby, feeding off fear. But how do we get out? Lena took another step forward, her presence warming the chill around me. You need to confront your fear. Acknowledge it, accept it. Then we can break free. It's the only way. My heart sank at the thought. But I don't want to face it. What if it's too much? I couldn't shake the past, the memories of loss and betrayal that haunted me. That's just what he wants, she urged. You've got to push through. I'll be with you. You're stronger than you know. Trust yourself. Taking a deep breath, I nodded, summoning every ounce of determination. Okay, let us do this. As Lena extended her hand toward me, the darkness began to swirl. I felt something shift inside, the fear, the pain, the anger. They started to bubble up, clawing at me. I struggled against the onslaught of emotions, but I held on to Lena's presence. She was right. I had to face this. Focus on the memories, she instructed. Slowly, one at a time, I closed my eyes, letting the memories come forward. I saw my mother's smile, then the day of her funeral, the laughter of friends, then the feeling of loneliness after they abandoned me. Each memory felt like a punch to the gut, but I forced myself to sift through them. I had to confront each one. Good, Lena whispered, her voice steadying me. Now feel it, accept it, let it out. With every memory I faced, a weight lifted, replaced by a flicker of strength. I opened my eyes, and the darkness around us began to thin. I could see shapes moving around the edges, glimpses of light breaking through. Keep going, Lena encouraged. Almost there. But just as I thought I could break free, the shadows surged back violently. The temperatures dropped, and a cold laugh echoed through the dark. You really think you can escape me? That voice. I knew that voice. It was him. My breath hitched, and I felt a wave of panic crash over me. What now? I gasped. My chest tightened. Trust in yourself, Lena said firmly. We can do this together. And in that moment, I realized I had nothing left to lose. I had to fight for my friends. The darkness howled as I stepped forward, ready to confront whatever awaited us. My heart raced, but the fire inside me ignited. I wasn't going to let fear control me anymore. Let us end this, I declared. And as I did, the shadows shrieked in response. And then, everything erupted. The howling shadows exploded around us, pushing me back toward the edge of the darkness. I staggered, but Lena's hand was firm around mine. Don't let go, she shouted, the intensity of her voice cutting through the chaos. I swallowed hard, feeling the panic creep back in as I fought to regain my footing. The laughter echoed again, more sinister this time. It filled the corners of my mind, wrapping around my fears like a serpent. What do you want? I screamed into the void, hoping for some kind of response. You Maya, the voice taunted. You can't hide from me forever. Your friends will never be safe. The mention of Mike and Sarah struck a chord in me, mixing fear with determination. I wasn't just fighting for myself, I was fighting for them. You're wrong. I'm not afraid of you anymore, I shouted back. The shadows twisted and writhed with anger. The cold feel of his presence lingered close, suffocating yet somehow familiar. I felt my heart pounding, but beneath that fear was a flicker of defiance. Focus, Lena urged again. Remember what we talked about. Accept the fear but don't let it control you. I closed my eyes, drawing from the strength that had begun to build inside me. Memories surged to the forefront again, my mother, my friends, moments that were beautiful but tinged with sadness. I could feel the shadows pulling me, but I forced my thoughts away from despair. Every memory is a piece of light, I whispered to myself. Every moment is a spark. Suddenly, I could feel those pieces of light igniting deep within. I opened my eyes, and they burned like stars. The shadows recoiled from the brilliance, screeching in frustration. "What are you doing?" the voice wailed. "I'm not afraid of you," I shouted, as the light grew stronger, blinding the darkness that had surrounded us. I started to step forward, pulling Lena along with me. "You fed on fear for too long. It ends now." Lena smiled, her presence radiating warmth. "That's it. Keep going." With every step, the shadows receded, and I could see the outlines of my friends at the edges. Their fear mirrored in my own but lessening as I pushed forward. "Mike! Sarah!" I called out, desperate to reach them. But just as I stretched my hand toward them, the laughter erupted anew, louder and more menacing. "You think you can save them? They belong to me." Without thinking, I turned back to the darkness. "I won't let you take them," I declared, gathering the memories and pull of light within me like a weapon. At that moment, everything shifted. The air crackled, and the shadows began to shatter, pieces disintegrating into a flurry of dust that sparkled like stars in the dark. I pushed forward through the beams of light, feeling them illuminate the space around me. Then I noticed something move, something dark rising amid the chaos. I squinted, but before I could process what I was seeing, a hand shot through the darkness, reaching for me. A chill ran down my spine. That hand wasn't from Lena or my friends. What if it was him? I couldn't turn back now. I had to know what it wanted. With a deep breath, I steadied myself and stepped toward it, determined to confront whatever threat loomed in the shadows. As my hand reached out toward the figure, everything went still. The laughter faded. I could feel my heart in my throat. Then I felt a cold grip wrapping around my wrist. "Welcome back," the voice hissed, sending a jolt of fear through me. And then, the darkness rushed in like a tidal wave. My eyes flew open to blinding light, disorienting me beyond comprehension. The laughter, the shadows, and the chilling atmosphere of that alley faded, leaving only a residual tremor in my chest. I was back in the diner, collapsed on the floor, with a few scattered chairs and overturned tables around me. "What?" My voice came out a rasp. I blinked rapidly, trying to piece together how I'd gotten here, but their faces weren't in focus. The room held an air of confusion and fear. The shadows had vanished, but the sense of danger lingered, a heavy mist settling around my shoulders. I slowly sat up, my heart pounding in my ears. There, across the booth where I had last seen Mike, he sat wide-eyed, hands gripping the edge of the table. Sarah stood beside him, her expression a blend of relief and terror. "What happened?" I croaked, finally gathering my wits. "Maya," Mike blurted, his voice wavering, "you just collapsed." I thought I lost you," Sarah whispered, stepping closer. I could see now that their faces were pale, shadowed by the remnants of some lingering dread. Though relieved they were safe, the memory of the man, that haunting figure, clawed at my mind. "He was here. He spoke to us," I said, still trying to shake the echoes of darkness from my thoughts. "What are you talking about?" Mike's brow furrowed. A mix of confusion and disbelief etched across his face. "Who was here? What did he do?" The room felt heavy, as if the air was thick with unspoken tension. I hesitated, feeling the competing forces of fear and disbelief press against me. As I struggled, the memories came flooding back. The laugh that wormed its way through my thoughts, the figure that danced just out of reach. "I don't know what he was, but he wasn't normal," I admitted. "He wanted me to face my fear. He thrives on it, on our weakness." The moment hung suspended like a candle flickering in the wind before Mike finally spoke again, his voice steady. "You guys didn't see him? You're sure about that?" "No one but me," I muttered, focusing on the pit in my stomach. "But he was real. He wanted to take me. What if it wasn't real?" Sarah ventured, her brow furrowed in thought. "What if it was just our minds?" With everything we've been through, no, I interjected, my voice more firm than I felt. This was different. I felt him. I felt his influence. We're connected, somehow, and if we don't find a way to break this link, it's not just going to go away. Just then, an unbearable chill washed over us. I glanced over my shoulder toward the diner's glass door, the familiar ding of the bell echoing eerily as I realized something, a reflection in the glass. My heart pounded mercilessly in my chest. I could have sworn I saw him standing outside, his smile still haunting. A pulse of adrenaline surged through me. "Yes, out there," I shouted, jumping up from the floor, scanning the empty diner room. "We need to leave now." Mike and Sarah exchanged glances but didn't hesitate. We rushed for the exit, the wood floor creaking beneath us as we approached the door, the air thickening with tension. As I pushed the door open, a gust of cold air met us, sending shivers racing down my spine. But there wasn't any sign of the man. The streets were desolate, empty of life, as if the world had held its breath. "What if he's still connected to us?" Mike said suddenly, his voice subdued but urgent. "What if we bring him with us?" I gripped the frame of the door, fighting against the fluttering uncertainty crawling within me. We weren't safe in the diner. We might not be safe anywhere. With every lingering second, the shadows seemed to seep back in like tendrils of darkness, whispering threats against the corners of my mind. I glanced back into the diner, each reflection in the glass unsettling, each flicker reminding me of what we had faced. "I need to know if the legend is real," I said, my mind racing. "If we can't shake this feeling, then we have to investigate. Maybe there are answers." Mike opened his mouth to protest, but I silenced him with a look. "We can't run forever. We'll keep running in circles. If we find the truth, we can break free from whatever this is. You know it too." As uncertainty hung heavily in the air, overwhelming yet brimming with purpose, I felt something shift within me. A glimmer of courage igniting new resolve. "All right," Mike finally said, his voice steady. "Let us figure this out. Together." We made our way down the street, and as we walked in unison, I couldn't shake the feeling that while we might leave the diner behind, the essence of that night would continue to linger. As the shadows stretched longer in the fading twilight, I glanced back one last time, half expecting to see the figure lurking just behind, a whisper of darkness in an otherwise ordinary world. But he was gone, at least for now. Still, I could feel the uncertainty in my bones, an unease settling over us like an unwanted guest. We were not free, not yet. The answers awaited somewhere down the twisting path of darkness. I often think about that night. I wonder if the man still lurks in mirrors, watching carefully until the moment is just right. I don't think I'll ever know for sure, but as I reflect on what we faced, I've realized something important. It's the unknown that holds the true power, waiting silently, waiting to be confronted.